Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves is about to hit cinemas worldwide, and thanks to UIP South Africa, What's Popping was at the local premiere to let you guys know whether or not this is a quest you should be embarking on. Now, just before we dive into a spoiler-free review and my thoughts on the film, I want to send a massive shout out to UIP South Africa for having me at the local premiere. It was an absolute blast, got us into the Dungeons & Dragons spirit, we threw axes, we walked the black carpet, we had mead, we had food, we had drink, and of course, lots of local cosplays to check out. So it was a great event. Thank you so much to UIP for having me, and make sure you guys hang around to the end of the video because they gave me a few goodies to give away to you guys out there. So let's dive into my thoughts on this film. Guys, if you are a Dungeons & Dragons fan, you are going to love this movie. That being said, you do not need to be experienced in the world of Dungeons & Dragons to have a good time in this. This is a movie for anybody. If you're a fan of the fantasy action adventure genre, you are going to have a great time in this film. Picks you up from the beginning, carries you right through to the end with enough humor, enough non-stop action to keep you wanting more. And it is very, very evident that the writers of this film are D&D players. The writers do a great job of introducing new themes, new characters, new locations, giving the audience just enough of what they need to pull you forward if you aren't a D&D fan. But if you have played D&D, if you've got experience being a dungeon master or can picture a dungeon master while you're playing this game, that's what it feels like. It feels like you're playing a game of D&D. If you do have experience with a dungeon master or you've been a dungeon master, there are tropes and jokes and little winks to the audience that you're going to pick up on that don't compromise the story if you aren't a D&D player. So you notice from the beginning of this that these characters are a ragtag group of vagabonds that have been put together through circumstance and have now a shared goal, something that they are working towards at the end of the film. And it's made very clear to you at the beginning of this film that these characters individually are not strong enough to complete this task. It is a seemingly impossible task they have to surmount. So firstly, they're going to have to rely on each other, just as you would in a D&D game, and they're going to have to level up sufficiently to be able to complete this final task. As you can tell from the title of the film, it is sort of a heist-based operation that they have to go through, so I love those elements. I think the film was strongest when it was playing into the different elements and the planning of the heist. When it gets down to the actual, working through and pulling off of the heist, I think they absolutely nailed it. And in true D&D form, you are taken through a world that continually expands as you move through the universe. So you go from location A to location B to location C, allowing these characters to level up, introduce new concepts to the audience. If you're a D&D player, you'll recognize different areas, you'll recognize different references, some great jokes, some nods to the audience that say, hey, maybe the Dungeon Master in charge of this game has got some unrealistic expectations for a couple of these different facets. And because the characters all play off so well against each other and all clearly have strengths and weaknesses, there is a great play back and forth between the characters that gives a great level of banter and also is able to showcase each character's role in the film. Nobody feels underutilized. We have a mage, we have a mage sorcerer, we have a druid, we have our bard, and of course we have a barbarian. We have a paladin who also shows up at some points, and a couple of great cameos in this film as well, so I won't spoil those for you guys. But those characters all play off of each other really well and give this idea of a team effort, a group of friends sitting around a table playing D&D, lots of 20s being rolled by these characters. I'm not going to lie, some great hits, there's some great moves that were taken, and I could just picture moments where saying, guys, should we do this? Okay, let's try it. What do you have to roll? Roll 20, 16 and above. Ooh, okay, let's give it a go. And it comes off, and you as the audience feel that payoff when those moments happen. In terms of some negatives for the film, there aren't that many. The movie is what it says on the box. It's a Dungeons & Dragons movie. It's not the next Lord of the Rings. It's not the next Game of Thrones. It never said it was going to be. And frankly, that's not what it needs to be. It needs to be something, in my opinion, that launches this new version of D&D to a wider audience, allows people more accessibility, gets people more involved in the game. If you don't want to play the game, you have something cool to watch. You have a great experience that you are going to escape on for a couple of hours. I think that while the writers did a great job of kind of walking that tightrope between giving the audience enough information if you aren't a D&D player and winking at the audience when you are a D&D player, something negative that might come across for some people is the world building in this film. You are kind of thrown in at the deep end of, you have to buy into the fact that this is a magical realm, anything can happen, and that is really, I think, where a lot of the fun of the film comes from. But because the characters have so many different places to go and so many different things to achieve in order to get to their final goal, to level up, to get the next item that they need, sometimes some of the world building in a few of the sequences feels a little bit lacking, and you kind of have to think to yourself, I want to know a little bit more about the backstory here. And that, in one or two sequences, it just kind of left me thinking, okay, how did that get there, and why is that there? But then again, at the end of the day, in a D&D world, you're just trying to get the next thing that you need to complete your quest. Sometimes the not knowing is also the fun of it. So I think there's a bit of give and take there that different audience members might take away from that. Some might say, world building a bit lacking here. Other guys who've played the game are going to say, no, that's how it goes. The magical item's there, therefore it's useful. So that kind of was something that I think, could be perceived as a positive or negative depending on how you view world building in a film. I think the power scaling was great. That worked really well. I wasn't a huge fan of Hugh Grant's character. And that pains me to say because I love Hugh Grant as an actor. And I just got the feeling that a lot of the time the director was kind of saying to him, okay, say something funny. And those lines didn't quite land for me. Those jokes didn't quite land. Whereas Chris Pine's character, he would say something, arbitrary that comes across as funny just because he has great comedic time. And so ultimately, I think Chris Pine's humor and charisma kind of pulls you through those moments where you might be cringing a little bit at Hugh Grant's humor, particularly in that first half of the film. That being said, Hugh Grant's character is meant to be somebody who is intrinsically unlikable, and I did not like him at all in this film. So maybe job well done to the directors on that one, but just a character that I didn't quite, I bought into his motivation, I understood why he was doing what he was doing, but some of the humor just fell flat for me. Ultimately, this film is strongest when you're playing on those buddy elements of everyone working together to achieve that common goal and filling in each other's gaps. I think that Chris Pine has a great dynamic with the entire cast, particularly with Michelle Rodriguez. I think those two really kind of pull the movie forward in moments where you feel it's slowing down a little bit. They really pull you back into it. And Justice Smith, I think he probably had the best arc in this film. And the lady who played the druid, I forget her name now, Beverly from It. Thoroughly enjoyed her performance as well. Love the creature she turned into as a druid, and I think there's something for everybody in terms of the special effects, the action, the broad scale adventure. This is something, if you're a D&D or an action fantasy fan, you have to check out. Anyways, if you guys would like to win some D&D merch, URP South Africa have given me 3 D&D hampers to give away to you guys. One of those will be given away on my Instagram. I'll link that down below. Another one on my TikTok. Also found the link down there. And the final giveaway will happen here on my YouTube channel, where all you have to do to enter is firstly, be subscribed to my channel, give this video a like, and then comment down below with what you thought of the movie if you've seen it, and if you haven't seen it, let me know what your go-to character class is when planning a D&D campaign. That's it for today, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I can't wait to see all of you guys in the next video.